Hello, this is Down the Rabbit Hole, Discovering Depth. And we're going to learn about depth and illusion in art. So, some essential questions. What is the illusion of depth in art? What do I mean by that? And then we're going to dive into depth, how it is done. Look at some examples while we do that, and then we're going to do a pretty cool artist investigation. And that is a painting on your right, and this is a good example of visual depth in a painting because you can see that the bridge just goes right off into space down there by the cloud. So what is the illusion of depth in art? Illusion is something that looks a way it isn't. That means that something that is two-dimensional or a flat surface can look three-dimensional, or something that's three-dimensional can look two-dimensional. And we do that with depth, which is creating that illusion of space within a 2D artwork. And then the image appears to contain multiple dimensions. The image on the right is a good example of that. It is a sketchbook cover, and it is drawn very carefully with really tight little flowers, but it has an illusion that there is depth to it, that it's a hole that doesn't go through the book, but it goes down, down, down to you don't know where. It just continues down. It has three-dimensional in appearance, even though that cover is actually, of course, flat. Depth in drawing relies on the following things: linear perspective, value, hierarchy, and focus. You don't have to use all of these at the same time. Just one will do the trick. In the image on the right, though, as a quick introduction to these things, you can see the linear perspective. So notice how the floor tiles, as they go far away from you, and the walls all converge to a point. That's linear perspective. Value, things that are close to you are lighter, darker further away. Hierarchy, bigger things seem closer to you. And focus, lots of details in Alice and Rabbit, not so many back here at the end of the corridor. Linear perspective is the convergence of lines. That means that the lines go together and they meet at a point. We know that, for example, the railroad tracks in the image don't really, real railroad tracks stay parallel to each other, but the way we see things, they converge. They go close together as they go into the distance. And that is how our brain processes information about physical distance. Lines converge. Objects, even though the telephone poles are all the same size, they get smaller as they go down. And buildings, same thing. They'll look smaller as they go away from you. Value, which is something we'll be concentrating on this week, is the amount of light present. It's the way the light falls on a surface, and that determines how we see something. If the light falls on the surface very evenly, then the surface looks like it's flat and two-dimensional. Its shape. If a value that ranges from white to black creates optic curves, and we see a 3D object of form like the sphere on top. Values that are lighter are closer to a light source and darker further away, and that creates depth. The light source could be close to you or far away. In the picture of the boy walking on the railroad tracks in the tunnel, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that is further away. That's actually probably not a very good idea to do. When I was a kid growing up, we had a tunnel with railroad tracks, and we used to dare each other to run through the tunnel. Yeah, and there were trains. Not a good plan. But I lived. Okay, so drawing with value can create the illusion of depth. Hierarchy is relative proportion. Objects closer to us are larger, Objects far away from us is small. So look at the picture of the man and all his happy llamas walking along. What color is the llama closest to you visually? And what color is the llama farthest away from you? When we're looking at the picture visually, the close llama is white, and the one that's farthest away is the black and white one, way in the back. Truthfully, it's a piece of paper or the screen that it's projected on. It's 2D, it's a flat surface, but we have that illusion of distance. Overlapping objects also creates visual distance. And look at the example, the still life drawing. What object is closest to you? What's in middle distance and which one is furthest away? So think about it for a minute. The one closest to you is the cube because it has that leading point, and if you kind of draw a line at that point, you can see that it's in front visually of the middle ground objects, which are the sphere and the cone are in the middle. And then the cylinder is furthest away. It's behind the cube, and its relative distance, it's behind the sphere and the cone as well. Focus is how clearly you see something. If something's in sharp focus, it means you can usually see details and clear lines. Objects that are close to you are in sharp focus. If it's blurry, a blurred focus, objects lose details, they lose their crisp outline, they just become kind of blurry shapes, and they tend to be far away from you. As human animals, we pay closer attention to things that are in sharp focus because that means they are nearer to us and therefore more important. In this image, you can see a good example of this. This is a photograph of some Icelandic ponies, and the one that is super uber ultra close to the camera, you can see his little eyelashes. Oh, how adorable. And the hair on his coat and his mane. But then even on that horse, when you get down to his neck, he starts getting blurrier, and then his mane just turns into a blur. And this horse back here, you can tell that's a horse, but you can't tell any sharp lines. The same thing with the house and the road and the fjord and all of the above. They're blurry and indistinct. They're farther away from you. Now, what you're going to do is an artist investigation for your assignment. And this is a fun one. You're going to look at the work of M.C. Escher. He's a master of depth and optical illusions. And you're going to go to the website Metamorphs, and it's linked in your classroom. And here is a screenshot of it that I forgot to crop so you can see my millions of open tabs. And ignore that. Anyway, so you're going to go to this website, and the place that you are on when you get there is this. And you're going to explore this timeline. Hit start. See where the arrow says start. And then as you go along, you hit on these little colored dots, and it will give you examples of his work and some information about his life. He's a pretty interesting guy. You don't have to read every last thing, but do check out a few things and check out some of the art there. It's pretty darn amazing. And then, after you have spent some time with that, you can make your own metamorphosis. You play with the controls on the left, and I'll show you that in a minute. You hit this to start. It says create your own metamorphosis. And then you're going to take a screenshot of your creation and post it to Classroom. If you don't know how to take a screenshot, or you can't take a screenshot, create a document and then write down something interesting that you learned about the office. Artist. Woo! Okay, let's go explore this website. All right, so here we are. This is what it looks like. And we are going to get started. So we hit one of these little things and they turn into a square. and it will talk about his art, and you can tell that the thing is narrated. Okay? So it will explain to you. And then you just kind of drag it to mosey down through and give it a minute to focus because it's a high resolution graphics. And every time you click on one of these little squares, it will tell you about something that he did. And show you another piece of work. And as I said before, there's a lot of these little things, so you don't have to hit all of them. But they will talk about some of his most famous works and how it was done. This is one of my favorites with the two-dimensional looking on his sketchbook and how it comes to life and walks around. And there is a key to it here at the front that I just realized. Get all the way back here to the front. And they're different. Red ones are his life. Blue ones are, let's see, let's just investigate a moment. Art history. And then green ones are his work. Okay, that's pretty easy. As I said, just explore your way through this. You'll notice how it changes as you go along. These are parts of some of his work. These are called tessellations, where shapes gradually change into other things, and that's something we might explore later on. And this goes on for quite a while. Now let me show you the other part. Create your own metamorphosis. Click on that. And you start. Click on initial shape, and you can choose one of these. You can make your own, or you can choose one of the pre-existing ones. There's the lizards, there's bats, there's geese or whatever those are, there's cubes. So I'm going to go with the bats. And then I can kind of change that too. I can change it into hexagons. I could change the colors. Oh, I think I'm going to do fish and bird because that's kind of cool. I can change the rotation of it. Oh, I want it rotated. I like that better. Anyway, you can play with it. And then the terminal shape is the shape that you're going to end with. And I would like to end with some lizards. And I can change some of these things. I want to make them into triangles. And then you hit your result. And it will think for a moment. And then see how it takes my bat design, and it'll gradually change it, and boom, I have lizards. Okay, you can take a screenshot of it. Let's see what Publish does. It just shows you the whole thing. And you could actually take a picture of your computer screen or your Chromebook screen with your phone if you don't know how to take a screenshot. Okay? So that is that. All right then.